What's going on, guys? My name is Jake. That's Jesus. This is your body comp prescription where we help you navigate through all things health and fitness. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at bodycomprx. We are not doctors, we are not nutritionists, so keep that in mind as we start the conversation, please. Jesus, what are we talking about today for episode number 5?
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome. Episode number 5 is about recovery. Everything you need to know about recovery. What is recovery? How do we do recovery? I think it's one of those things where it should be top priority on your list. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're serious about training, if you're serious about working out, serious about nutrition, recovery should be just taken as serious. I think we should get right into it, right?
Cool. Yeah, definitely a super important topic. So we'll just get right into it. So I think the place that I wanted to start when we talk about recovery is defining recovery. This is my own definition. So if you got something to say, always let us know. But recovery to me is the ability to perform at the same or higher level than you previously trained at. So, if you did something once, you recovered from it, you should be able to train at that same level that you previously did it at, or at an even higher level. So, where I'm going to start is actually with a graph. So for all my people that are watching this on YouTube, this will be great for you because I can throw this on the screen. But for everyone that is just listening to the audio, I'll do my best to explain. So bear with me. So what I'm going to be describing is the super compensation curve as it relates to training and recovery. So what I'm going to have you do is just vision a basic XY graph, right? That goes into the positive, that goes into the negatives, right? And for this example, let's use chest as the group that we're training, the muscle group that we're training, right? So before we train, we start at 0, 0, right? Before we train chest, we're at 0, 0. Once we begin the workout, we actually start dipping down into the negative part of the graph because, as we know, when we train, we don't get stronger. We actually break our muscle down and we get a little bit weaker as we train. So let's say that by the end of training, we reach -10 on the graph. Okay. As soon as we finish training, we start going back upwards towards 0 again. And that's the part of the graph where we begin our recovery. Okay. So we go from -10 at the end of our workout, heading back towards 0. And for this example, we're training chest, right? So it takes about 24 to 72 hours to recover from, a chest workout. So after that period has elapsed, we will have either reached 0 again on the graph, or if we recovered properly, we will have surpassed 0 and let's say hit negative or +5 on the graph, where we're actually able to outperform our previous chest workout. So, for an example of this would be like moving more weight than we did last time, or completing more reps than we did last time, and something like that. So, I feel like that was a really good place to start. I'm sorry for all my audio listeners that can't see the graph. Hopefully, I did a good enough example or a good enough job explaining what that looks like. But what I want to just clarify is that if recovered properly, we should be able to reach back to where we were previously or achieve a higher level than that. So that's just what I want to get across, going back to our definition, right? Achieving the same level or higher level than previously done.
I think that you did a really good job explaining that and the importance of that.
Thank
But you
you.
know what's another good, you know what's another good example of who takes recovery just serious? The greatest basketball player of all time. That is Mr. LeBron James, right? That's
The
an
GOAT.
episode that's a topic for another episode, right, in the future. But LeBron James, dude, if you those who don't know this guy, right, as far he makes lots of money, but he also spends lots of money on a recovery. I'm
Mm,
someone who likes to follow everything about LeBron James, right? And you see
mm,
the moment he gets off the court, straight takes off his shoes, right into an ice bath. He's getting work done. Um, every single day of his life, when it's before practice, after practice, he's always getting work done, right?
yeah.
It helps him so much perform and what he's been able to do. For those who don't know, he's year 17 now, right? He's
18.
he's 18, yeah, 18, even better. And his only injury is was a growing injury last year, which it wasn't even that bad of an injury. He's outperforming many young 20-year-olds at this point in life, and it's crazy. It's really awesome to see what he's doing now in the basketball world. But that comes with the price. That comes he knows how serious recovery should be, right? So
Yeah.
that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think one thing too, like, for the people that do know LeBron James and know how much his contract is worth, obviously, yes, he has the money to invest in like costs of recovery, but
Mhm.
also this guy's investing his efforts and his time in doing it. It's not like he just pays for it and he's magically better at the end of it. He wants to do these things to help improve. So, you know, it's more than just a financial investment as well. It's a effort thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to throw that out there, it's not all monetary, but definitely someone who does that at that high of a level should show you how important it is to take care of yourself. But um, the reason why recovery is so important is because if you don't recover properly, again, you won't be able to perform at the same or higher level than you did before. AKA, you won't improve. Like I don't mean to be like super super blunt about it, but recovery is again should be at the top of our priorities list because if regardless of your goal, if you're looking to build muscle, lose fat, build strength, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? You need to take this seriously because if you are trying to get better than you were before, you need to take that intermediate step of recovery to make sure that you can keep improving, because when we exercise, when we train, whatever your way of exercising is,
Hmm.
we break down tissue, right? We break down our muscle tissue. So the only way to get us back to that level, right, going back to the graph, we dip down into a negative state at the end of a workout. And the only way to get back to zero or into a positive state of being able to train at a higher level is by recovering properly, and we'll talk about like the ways that you can improve that, like shorten the duration in which your recovery time happens, um, and stuff like that. We'll get into it, but you know it should start to pick up how important this is to take into account when we are on whatever journey we're on as far as
Yeah.
fitness and health goes.
Yeah, dude. I think I'm gonna plug our episode 2. If you haven't watched that, that was a good episode about fat loss. I was talking, um, fat loss and kind of muscle breakdown kind of go hand in hand because I was mentioning how our body naturally breaks down and builds muscle protein, right?
Mhm.
So this is kind of it was a good example because when we're resting, it resting was important for fat loss, and now we're talking about resting important for everything because it truly is.
Mhm.
Regardless of what your goal is, where your goals are, and where your journey is, and it was just something really good to consider there. But not just resting. There's also different factors that play into, uh, you know, all this. Jake, you want to cover a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, again, like we talk about, like when you hear recovery, you think like rest, how like like the time that's not in the gym
Hmm.
is your recovery, a lot of people think, but your diet and nutrition come into this as well, like again, using LeBron James as an example, like you just can't envision that the guy goes to drop a triple double on any team and then goes home and eats like McDonald's every single day. You know,
Yeah.
like obviously, yes, he has the funding to have a a private chef or someone prepare his meals, but if you look at the meals that he's making, they're all still like they're a little basic, but they're all healthy, So like the point that we want to get across is when we talk about muscle breakdown, we can't ever build back our muscle if we don't have the proper nutrients in order to do so, right? So if we're breaking down our muscle, but we don't provide our body enough protein in order to build our muscle back, it's going to be hard for you again to perform at the same or higher level if I haven't been a broken record enough already.
Yeah.
So, you do need to take those things into account.
Yeah.
We won't get too deep into diet and nutrition as far as, muscle building goes, but, you know, long story short,
Something.
yeah, you want to take that into account and, you know, making sure you have a sufficient amount of protein is a good way to start taking care of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think what's another thing, rest periods in between your workouts is actually just as important as well. Um,
mhm.
and if you're not really sure because you're just starting this journey for yourself and you're not sure what to do, or maybe you already have a program working out for yourself, but you're not sure if it's the rest periods are scheduled correctly. ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, right? Very credible source. This is what they say. They say if your training goal is strength, it should be about 2 to 5 minutes in between, right? If you're going to power, another 2 to 5 minutes. If you're if you want to do muscle growth, 30 seconds to a minute and a half. And if you're doing muscular endurance, which is kind of high intensity exercises, it should be about 30 seconds or less in between your sets. But like we always say, take this with a grain of salt. I think should just be kind of like a format, a template of how you should be planning your rest periods, right?
Yeah, so gonna segue into a little tangent real quick. A lot of times when people ask me about like what I should be doing to achieve XYZ, they should say, how long are my rest periods? How long should they be? All these questions can't be answered unless you identify your goal, right? I can't
Mm-hmm.
give you an answer of, oh, your rest time should be 60 to 60 seconds to 2 minutes or something like that. I can't give you that answer, or you can't even use the guidelines that Jesus just told you unless you know what you're trying to achieve, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're if I tell you 2 to 5 minutes, but your goal is to go primarily for strict muscle building, that's wrong. I can't tell you 2 to 5 minutes because you'd probably be better off doing the 30 seconds to a minute and a half, right? That's probably a better range for you. So identify your goals first before you start asking the question of what um, how long my rest period should be, and then that'll help you a little bit more. You know,
Yeah.
as far as rest periods go for myself, um, I think the best way to gauge how long they should be is you should know kind of what your training looks like from a day-to-day basis, based off of like your programming. And if you don't, we already talked about programming in episode 3, so go check that out if you don't know what your programming looks like, or where to find programming or how to find good programming. But
Mm-hmm.
getting back on track, you should know how your training looks like. And if your programming is built around fat loss, and let's tie that into trying to build into some muscle, you shouldn't be resting 2 to 5 minutes. So like if you feel like you have the energy to get whatever job you need to do done, then I say go for it. Like my guess is that you're not training 1 rep maxes all the time if you're doing muscle building fat loss, right? Those kinds of programmings. So, you know, if you feel like you have the energy, you can just go for it, right? You're probably going to be
Mm-hmm.
working in like the 12 to 15 rep range anyways. So gauge it for yourself, kind of feel it out, a little bit of trial and error as well, but you know, don't take more time than you need to, I would say. That's probably what I would what I would say is a rule of thumb for rest times go if you don't want to necessarily follow those ACSM
Yeah.
guidelines.
Yeah, I think kind of like kind of an example for that. Let's say you're doing a high intensity exercise, right? You're doing this workout program that you have, and you know it's supposed to be high intensity this whole time, right? You're not
Hmm.
gonna in the middle of whatever exercise you're doing, you're not gonna stop for 2 to 5 minutes. You're gonna, the goal of this exercise is for your heart rate to be up, the intensity to be up. So you're gonna make sure your rest periods don't allow you to basically catch a breath and basically return to a resting heart rate, right?
Hmm.
So you
Yeah,
want to keep that, you want to keep that up. So that's kind of like, I think that's the example I think of. It's like, if you know you're supposed to be at this, you're gonna make sure you gauge your rest periods in between.
for sure.
Yeah, you want to talk about what are some popular recovery tools? Um,
Yeah.
I think yeah, off the bat, popular recovery tools that people use. Um, they are you have your hypervolt, you have ice baths, you have, a lot of people do jacuzzis, massages, cupping, right?
Hmm.
Those are kind of the more popular ones. They,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think recovery tools are important to cover because I think they're increasing in popularity as far as like uh, or also as in interest. People are
Hmm.
more interested in recovery tools.
You see them
They're
more.
coming, yeah, they're becoming a lot more prevalent. You know, you can't even go to into like a Walmart or a Target without seeing a knockoff like massage gun that looks like a hypervolt or there. You know, like
Hmm.
a lot of people are getting more interested. So I think it is important that we talk about these things. But what I do want to say about recovery tools is I personally think they're helpful, but what all recovery tools are aimed at um, achieving is improving your blood flow post workout in order to repair muscles and reduce the amount of lactic acid that is in your muscles during that recovery process.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Again, hypervolts, massage, jacuzzis, all of them. They're all centered around blood flow and getting because we know in our blood flow that our that's how all of our nutrients get like they travel through our body. So getting a good amount of blood flow to broken down muscle groups is how those recovery tools are
Hmm.
aimed at, helping you with your recovery times, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. I think, real quick, for those who don't know what lactic acid is, I guess best way to describe it, it's that feeling of soreness and pain when you can't really the next day, you're feeling super sore. That's the lactic acid buildup, or even in between your sets when like you're doing some curls and it's starting to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That's all good. I think misconception that lactic acid is bad. It's actually pretty good for us. It's the process that builds muscle, breaks down, and then rebuilds muscle. And I think what Jake was saying with the recovery tools, they're kind of like aids and supplementary work for us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like Jake says, they help us get back to that. In Jake's example with his graph, they help us get back to that positive state much quicker and sooner than we would have if if we were just resting and decided to take a few days off from the gym, right?
For Yeah, for sure. I mean, the recovery tools are great. Like, we both, me and Jesus both have hypervolts, and I know I use mine pretty religiously. I have a foam roller. I put a lot of effort into um, the tools that I have towards my recovery.
Hmm.
But this uh, this doesn't mean that you should be going out and dropping, tons and tons of money on recovery tools. One, if you don't have it, but two, if you don't have your basics covered anyways. If you need a gym membership, go get a gym membership before you drop $700 on a top of the line Theragun. Don't
Hmm.
go get massages once a week or once a month if it doesn't fit the budget. Like these things are, like I think Jesus just said, they're supplements. Like they help you, and we definitely advocate for them from our experience. I even did one of my main research project that I did in college was using hypervolts. It was around muscle tissue manipulation and recovery times, and how they can be used to reduce the amount of time that it takes to perform at a stronger level. In my case, for the study, and it came out positive. They correlated, but also keep in mind it's not a published study and it was at an amateur level. So take that as you will. But we can get more into depth later on certain recovery tools and what we feel like are the most helpful, most cost effective, stuff like that. But the way that I want to tie this up is with, I think the most important recovery tool of them all is sleep. You know,
Yes.
sleep, we talked about this again in episode 2, I believe. And we may sound like we're repeating ourselves, but sleep is something that is, again, cheap, and it's effective, and you can do it right away. Like, sleep is something that you can control as soon as you're done listening to this. You don't necessarily have to go, again, drop a certain amount of money on a massage gun just because you think you need one. If your sleep isn't good, I'm sorry, your recovery won't be that great either.
Yeah.
Like, if just to recall what happens during the time that we sleep, is a lot of our recovery is happening with muscle rebuilding, and all of that kind of stuff is happening while we're at rest, while we're sleeping. So, maybe start to take that a little bit more seriously and get higher amounts of sleep, like more hours of sleep if you're not getting enough. Um, Maybe investing in better sheets or a better pillow or something like that might be the more practical thing to do, because sleep, obviously, in the form of recovery, it helps everything that we do, not just
Mhm.
helps us build more muscle. So I don't know, do you have anything to say about that in regards to
No,
sleep?
no, I agree. I think sleep should be your step one. When you're looking into recovery, step two would probably be, working on different things. Recovery could also be working on your mobility. I know, on a
Hmm.
different episode we'll talk about mobility a little bit more, but working on just simply stretching right after you work out, getting your blood flow moving again. It's also beneficial.
Yeah, that's definitely considered. I would consider recovery work as well. So
Mhm.
cool. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered recovery pretty well. Um,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
like to
just
emphasize it. Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, just to kind of like summarize what we're talking about. Like, again, we need recovery in order to be better than we were yesterday. I think that's the
Yes.
best way to summarize this. We talked about tools that you can use. We talked about rest times, and we wrapped it up by saying what we think the most important recovery tool is, and that is being sleep.
Mm.
So I think I'm pretty much good. You
Oh
have
yeah,
anything else to say?
you summarized it really well.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you again for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.
So thanks again for tuning into our podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you who took the time to listen to this week's episode.
If you enjoyed the conversation, we would love it if you shared this with someone who would find this helpful. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at bodycomprx for more tips and information. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.